Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ohio State Primetime Live. I'm your co-host Ryan Stano.
And I'm Garrison Gaddy.
Welcome in, everybody. It's finally here, the college football playoff. We kind of had to. It was a bummer last weekend. Had to sit out conference championship weekend. It was no fun watching Oregon and Penn State battle for a conference title, but now Ohio State's back in action. The college football playoff bracket was revealed. Ohio State is the 8th seed. They were 6th overall in the rankings, but they sit there as the 8th seed. All in all, 4 Big Ten teams get in. And, I thought the way they set up the bracket was really interesting, Garrison. I kind of want to hear your thoughts on how the committee did in general, Ohio State seeding, and where you think the committee went right and where you think they went wrong.
Yeah. So, first off, I think first off, there has to be a change in the seeding. Usually when you're the number 1 seed, your path isn't the hardest. It's not supposed to be the hardest, right?
Yeah.
And so for Oregon, they get to face off whether it be Tennessee or Ohio State. That's not easy. And then, off the back of that, you would assume they have Penn State, and then that leads to Penn State and them having SMU after losing the Big Ten championship, and then possibly, I think we would all assume playing Boise State.
Yeah.
I think that definitely has to change. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talk about this over the last, 24 hours or so, 36 hours. So, coming into this year, I don't think anyone thought that there was going to be a G6 school coming in and getting one of those top 4 seeds. I think everyone thought, a P4 school was going to be easily get one of the top 4 seeds, just because we've seen that year in, year out. That kind of college football is just those teams play better. Those teams have a higher level of competition, so they get more respect. I'm okay with how everything worked out in terms of the top 4 seeds. I think Boise State, based on what we've seen, I think they deserve that 3rd seed. I definitely think they did things right by giving Arizona State that 4th seed as opposed to Clemson, getting that final seed. But I'm kind of in agreement with you in terms of of needing to reseed and maybe needing to rethink those automatic conference bye week champions. Right. Just because, again, you kind of hit the nail on the head. Oregon, as the number 1 undefeated team in the country, took care of their business. They're the only undefeated team here, in the playoff, and they are rewarded by taking on the winner of Ohio State and Tennessee. And a lot of people think Ohio State's got one of the most talented rosters in the country. Yeah. So, and you also mentioned, Penn State. So you lose your conference championship game, and then you get rewarded by playing an SMU team that I don't think anyone really seems to believe in, after they lost to Clemson. And then you get to play Boise State, who really has only been tested by Oregon at Oregon early in the year. So
that's their loss is their best win. Exactly.
You could argue that they have the easiest path to making the national championship in the country. So, and I see a comment here, why not reseed after every round? I don't think that's viable mainly because there's still some bowl tie-ins. Like Oregon, they're still playing in the Rose Bowl. The Big Ten and the Pac, after the dismantling of the Pac-12, the Rose Bowl still wanted to have that tie-in with the Big Ten. They still have the tie-in with the Sugar Bowl. And again, with the reseeding every round, the biggest problem with that would actually be the travel, because there's just so many different places these teams have to be. And quite frankly, this is what they've agreed to, so conferences don't get left behind. Maybe sometime in the future, the Big Ten and the SEC end up controlling this, but right now you got to make every conference commissioner happy, and this is how you do it.
Right. And then, my favorite matchup in all of this is the Indiana Notre Dame one.
Oh yeah.
I'm that's a couple-hour drive for me. I am contemplating going to that game.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I was back in Indy for my dad's birthday
Mhm.
this weekend. It was a bummer being in Indy, seeing all the Oregon and Penn State fans there. I can talk about that later, but a lot of buzz about that Notre Dame Indiana matchup back home.
Oh, yeah.
So you're right. That's going to be a very intriguing matchup.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I don't even know if you know this. So, I mean, I thought I told you this before, but I went to the University of St. Francis, played football there for a couple years out in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So,
Okay.
like, this is really cool. I know a lot of IU fans. Of course, I know a lot of Notre Dame fans. But
Yeah.
I think these two have only played a few times. They
Yeah.
don't
The last
play
time
a
they
lot.
played was actually back in 1966.
That's insane.
So it's
That's
been
insane.
a while. And it's strange. You would think, being
Mhm.
in-state opponents, they would play, a little bit more often, but that hasn't been the case. Notre Dame's
Right.
played Purdue, obviously more often because there's a trophy game involved. But I think that's going to be interesting. I mean, personally, I think Notre Dame's gonna win that game fairly easily.
Mhm.
I mean, you saw Indiana, and I want to get your take. So were you hoping for a rematch with Ohio State and Indiana in the playoff? Because I surely was.
When I see the road that Ohio State has the hardest road to get to the championship. Okay, we're talking because at first I was against you on this. We're talking Tennessee. If you beat them, you play Oregon,
Mm-hmm.
and then if you were to beat Oregon, the chances are you're probably going Georgia, Texas.
You're probably playing Texas. That's what you're going to do. You're going to play Texas.
I'm sorry, Texas then Georgia. Texas then Georgia.
Yeah.
If everything were to shake out that way. So, hindsight's 2020. Looking back on it, Ryan, yeah. I wanted Indiana. I want Indiana. I mean, that's Ohio State has the toughest road to the national championship without question.
One of the other things I thought the committee got absolutely wrong is the
Mhm.
seeding of Penn State and Ohio State.
Oh yeah.
So Ohio State has, by this bracket, 2 top 10 wins, including
Mhm.
winning at Penn State. Penn State has 0 top 10 wins, top 12
Yeah.
wins, with this bracket. They don't even have a top 25 win. So I don't. Well, actually, they did beat Illinois, so that is technically a top 25 win, but still,
Mhm.
they don't have, and they lost the head to head. Why play the games of the head to head is not going to matter. They have the same amount of losses.
Yep.
Yes, Ohio State's got that crappy loss against Michigan at home, but and Penn State's only losses are to Oregon and Ohio State. But
Mhm.
right there's my point. You lost to Ohio State. You lost that head to head. I thought Penn State should have dropped down. I thought, quite frankly, Penn State should have been the 8 seed. Ohio State should have been the 7 seed. And I thought Notre Dame should have been the 6 seed. That's why I thought it should have broken up. But
No, I
it
agree
is
with
what it
you.
is.
No, I completely agree with you. In my eyes, I think that people or the committee, yes, Michigan is not they're not even a good team. They are a very mediocre team. And Ohio State lost to them. That is what it is. There's other factors in that. It's the game, cool. But at some point, the wins have to matter. Ohio State has 2 top 10 wins. Penn State has none. Penn State lost to Ohio State at home. And it wasn't like it went down to the wire. They went up 10-0, and then they never were really in the game. They didn't score an offensive touchdown in that game.
Yeah.
So
And
I
it's
just
not like that game. It's not like that game was in September either. It was late
no,
October. It was only a few weeks
exactly.
ago.
And also, I mean, if you told me before the Penn State Oregon game that Penn State scored 37 points, I would assume they won that game because I couldn't see that. I could never see their defense give up that many points. Well, they sure as hell did. They give up 40. They did.
Yeah.
So like I think that, and I understand they don't want to penalize teams for going or losing championship games, but let's be honest here. They backing it up and they backed in there. They didn't get there. Yes, you have to win the
They
games on your
didn't. They didn't
schedule.
earn it by winning. A
No,
big game in the final weekend. Yeah.
no. And I think any Big Ten fan will tell you, I'd be pressed to say almost any football fan will tell you, Ohio State was the second best team in that conference this year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and we can grumble a little bit about the seeding and about if Ohio State should have been ahead of Penn State, but the bottom line is take care of business in Michigan, and it does matter.
Yeah.
You get that. But as far as not wanting to penalize a team going to the conference championship, I'm not saying drop them out of the playoff completely. And
Mhm.
obviously, they didn't want to do that to SMU, which I thought was the right call. SMU deserves to be in instead of Alabama.
Oh, I
I
was so
mean,
happy.
Alabama lost to a crappy Oklahoma team with, and it wasn't even close. They got smoked
Mhm.
in that game. They didn't score
Oh,
a
for sure.
touchdown. So
Belt the
uh,
ass.
it was, yeah. I mean, it was just SEC homerism, just trying to get them in. And then obviously, the ridiculous. I'm sure you saw Alabama's AD come out with a statement. Oh, we're going to have to
Yeah.
look at our scheduling moving forward. It's like, dude, you didn't even your non-conference scheduling wasn't the
Mhm.
problem. It was winning games against other teams in your conference. So beat the teams in your
Yeah.
conference.
Well, and think about this real quick, Ryan. It wasn't as if like, see, I think what helped SMU stay in is the fact they came back and the way they
Yes, I
lost.
agree.
The way they lost.
Yep,
So
I agree.
I mean, yeah, you can. I mean, does Clemson really deserve to be in the playoff? I don't know what to tell you. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
when it comes to SMU, if we're gonna let Clemson in, I think it's only right that we let SMU in.
I agree. And this, take away seeding, do a random draws, but still give division winners first round buys. I don't like taking away. I don't
Mhm.
like doing random draws. You got to give the teams who played well throughout the entire season some sort of reward for their play throughout the whole year. So,
Yeah.
Oregon shouldn't have to possibly take on Texas after the first round, or Georgia as the 2 seed.
Mhm.
That seems wrong to me.
I do
But
disagree with you on Boise State. I don't think they deserve that seeding. I don't think there's. I really don't. I
I think
just.
Boise State's a good team. And the thing is, they play a brand of ball that travels because they can run the football well. Ashton Genty is the real deal.
I
And when you
think
can
when.
run the football well,
Uh-huh.
not only can you move the ball, but you control that
Mhm.
clock against better teams. Well, I shouldn't say better teams, against teams with more talent on paper. So, in a potential matchup against a Penn State, um, and we saw how bad Penn State is at, stopping the run against Ohio State. That final drive, Ohio State just kind of took it to them in those last final
Mhm.
5 minutes. Boise State can do that honestly better than Ohio State can right now because of the offensive line issues,
Mhm.
and Ashton Genty's a better running back. So I got to give them their due.
I'll give them their due to this extent. The Big Ten championship game aside, Penn State's defense is better than Oregon's. I mean, it is. Penn State's better at run stopping on average than Oregon is. Um, I think that as we get later into the season, games are going to slow down. Well, I want to see it there. I don't think they're going to. I want to see if they slow down because, like in the NFL playoffs, games slow down when you get to the playoffs. That means your quarterback play has to be really good. Their quarterback Maddox is trash.
I don't think that's that bad.
Madison's bad, bro. He's well, I feel like if I pull up his stats, he's not a very accurate passer. They don't
So
lean on him that much at all. And when you play these top tier teams, it's going to show. The the the,
sure.
ta- the talent's going to show in these playoffs, I believe.
Look, I'm not
Especially for
saying
them.
here I think Boise State's going to win a national title or anything, but I mean, Madison isn't Madison isn't bad. He's got 2,700 passing yards, and he completes 62% of his passes, 22 touchdowns to just 3 interceptions. So he's not a guy that's going to hurt you offensively. He's going to take care of the football, and he knows his role. His role is
Mhm.
to make things tough for the opponent in terms of that play action game is a big part of their game because everyone's keying in on Ashton Genty. So Madison
Right.
just has to be good enough to make them respect their passing game. He's not going to. I'm not expecting him to sling it around for 350 yards. You know what I mean? But if he throws for 200, 210, and he hands the ball off to Genty, 35 times a game, I think they can win a game.
So
Now, do I expect them to do anything past whoever they would play, Penn State or
mhm.
SMU? If they were to win that game, do I expect them to win another? No, but they deserve to be in it.
So I'm not saying they don't deserve to be in it, but I'm talking about the
No,
shooting.
you're
This is what I
saying you
mean
don't
about
deserve to
Madison.
buy. Yeah,
Yeah, this is what I'm saying about Maddox Madison. The only game I can pull from his season that actually is worth talking about into what he's about to see in this playoff is the Oregon game. 17 for 40, 148. That's 3.7 per one touchdown, QBR 59.5. I think yes, it's early in the season. That
Yeah,
was second game of the
that's
year. I
yeah,
think if they play Oregon 10 times, it looks just like that. It looks just last year he was under 60% as a passer also. So
yeah. I
yes,
mean, I
but he's playing good against the teams they're playing against. But I'll ask you this. I'll ask you this comparing them to SMU. Do you think Boise would have gone 10, 11-1 in that conference?
I actually do. I don't think the ACC is that good of a
Really?
conference. Yeah, I do. I don't think the ACC is that good of a conference. Definitely think they could have done
Mhm.
that in the Big 12. Now, Big 10 or SEC, absolutely not.
No.
And you know, this is the good part of this 12-team playoff is you're going to see teams like Boise State get to prove their due, and
Yeah, that's true.
they can show it on the field. And like I said, they've got a game that
Mhm.
travels. So I think they're pretty good. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about Ohio State's matchup.
For sure.
Tennessee 8-9 matchup. Ohio State opens as a 7.5-point favorite, and the game's going to be at home at night. It's going to be the last playoff game of the first round. So, give me your initial thoughts on this game.
I'm very excited because I'm a closet Tennessee fan. Like it's like the team I
You
root
mentioned that
for.
last week, yeah.
Yeah, I love everything about them. But on the field, my first thoughts are O line versus their D line, their running game versus our run defense. Uh,
That is
honestly,
concerning to me.
that's honestly where I keep. Am I concerned about our pass protection or just our offensive line in general? Yes. The only thing I'm happy about right now is that they have a couple weeks here to figure something out. That's the only thing I'm happy about. Outside of that, in terms of the game, I'm very worried about what that looks like. Not that because I think not like Tennessee will blow us out, but like it worries me. On the other side, their run game against our run defense. Again, I'm not as like I know like we got when I got into, but we talked about just the effectiveness of Michigan's run game, and we disagree on that. But as a whole, of 12 games of data, Ohio State is the second best run defense in the nation. That
Yeah.
that 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 can't be questioned. It's been really good. I want to know, and then the quarterbacks, and then, yeah, it's cliche to say that, but I mean, Will Howard, how when he gets pressure in this game, what happens? Also, when it comes to Nico, a lot of I figured out here recently, Ryan, that a lot of people do not watch football outside of their own team. And a lot of people will say, well, man, Tennessee's passing game, man, hype. Well, he can scheme it up. Here's the thing, everybody. Their passing game has been looked broken all year. It's looked broken. Josh Heupel hasn't had the same passing game since 2022. That's fact. Last year it wasn't that good. This year's it's better, but it's not anything to be afraid of. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a really good matchup. I think I think the over under is 47.5 or something like that right now. I would take the under without question.
Yeah. So, where I wanted to go first here is the quarterback matchup. You mentioned about Nico and how everyone thinks that their passing offense is this high flying act. So Nico
Mm-hmm.
does have 2,500 passing yards. He's only got 19 touchdowns. He's got 5 interceptions. But I want to talk about how he plays in the toughest games that they've played so far this year, because that's what this
Okay.
is going to be for him. This is going to be a tough game on the road in a hostile environment.
Right.
So let's start here against Alabama, who they beat, by the way. They won this game. It was at home,
Mm-hmm.
at Tennessee. So he had some friendly confines there. He was 14 of 27 for 194 yards, so completing just 52% of his passes, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, and he got sacked 3 times. Another game that they played against a tough opponent. They played at Georgia, which they lost this game 31-17.
Mm-hmm.
20 of 33 for 167 yards is all. No touchdowns, no interceptions. He got sacked 5 times. And even another game that they played against, yes, Oklahoma was ranked at the time of this matchup. We all know how bad Oklahoma is
Mm-hmm.
now. but he was just 13 of 21, 194 yards, 1 touchdown, had 3 sacks. In the game that they lost the following week against Arkansas, 17 of 29,
Yeah,
158, sacked 4
that was
times,
bad.
no touchdowns, no picks. So this is someone, and he also carried the ball 11 times for only 17 yards in that game. So,
Mhm.
you know, Nico, I think he's going to be good in the future. And he's showing the ability where, here late in the season, he beat up on teams like UTEP and Vanderbilt. I mean, we saw Vandy have some moments early in the year. Their defense has not been the strong part of their team. So, he's had some moments where, yeah, he can throw it deep. And if you're not careful, he
Mhm.
will go ahead and throw it past you. That's not been Ohio State's necessarily their issue this year. They don't get beat with a lot of deep throws. They get beat by a lot of intermediate throws. Within that 10 to 20 yard range. Nico
Yeah.
doesn't excel at that because he's a true freshman. He just doesn't have that refinedness to his game yet. So I think Ohio State definitely has the edge in the quarterbacks because I think Will Howard's got a lot of experience. Yes, he played his worst game as a Buckeye against Michigan, but
Yeah.
I have to imagine that being at home in front of a raucous home crowd is going to really energize him. And I think it's really going to rattle someone like Nico. So I think they gave him a slight edge there. But like you, I am deeply concerned about Ohio State's offensive line being able to handle the front of Tennessee, specifically in the run game. We saw how poorly that went against Michigan. They weren't able to move anyone off their spot, couldn't get to the second level, and ultimately that was their downfall.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you caught Ryan Day's press conference after the revelation that they were going to play Tennessee, but I was actually somewhat encouraged when he said, yeah, we'll do anything that we need to do to win this game. So he's not committing to one specific game plan to beating
Right.
Tennessee like he did against Michigan, where he was just running up against a brick wall, at every series. He'll throw it, he'll run it,
Mhm.
he'll do whatever he needs to do. And I mean, he kind of needs to because his job is on the line. If they lose, he out of here.
Yeah, when it comes to Nico, I mean, you said something that I'm not like a lot of people probably don't know. They probably haven't seen Tennessee this year. He gets sacked a lot.
Yeah,
He's
he
sacked on
does.
average. I think he gets sacked twice a game, twice a game, 24 times this season. Fun
And part of that's
stat for
because he
every
holds on to the ball a lot because he's trying to make
yes,
some plays.
and then fun stat for everybody. Ohio State sacks the quarterback at 10.5%. That is second in the country. Now, yes, it may not come from Jack Sawyer and JT like we wanted to all the time, but we're sacking the quarterback. I think that it's really easy to look at Ohio State's offensive line and say, oh man, what are they going to do with someone else's defensive line? But I don't think a lot of people are giving Ohio State's defensive line the credit they deserve. They stop the run, they stuff it. And yes, the Michigan game, that's an anomaly. That's not that happened, but I separate from the rest of the season. You're not
So
going to beat Ohio State running the ball down their throat. And if you're doing that, you better hope that the game is in a single score game at that point in time.
I generally agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be able to beat this team most of the time running it 30, 35 times, down the
Unless
so
you're Michigan.
well, and the part of the reason why Michigan was able to do that is
Mm-hmm.
because Ohio State gave them a short field a couple times. I mean, specifically, Ohio
Will
State gifted Michigan 7 points with that Will Howard interception. They only had to go less than 10 yards into the end zone to get that touchdown.
and they give them 10
So,
points. The other interception gave them the field goal.
sure, but they at least had to drive down the field a little bit more for that one. So, as far as Tennessee's ground game is concerned, they
Mm-hmm.
do. I mean, I wouldn't say they're bad at running the football, and I wouldn't say they're great at it
No.
either. They've got some guys. I mean, Dylan Sampson is their top back. He's run for
Mm-hmm.
almost 1,500 yards this season. He's got 22 touchdowns, though. So when he gets the ball close to the goal line, he's going to score. I mean, he runs it at 5.8 yards a pop. So
Yep.
they're getting some movement up front, which is a little bit concerning. But if we're coming down to the same thing with Michigan. with Ohio State against Michigan, all we said
Mhm.
was stop the run because they can't throw the ball because they've had 3 different starting quarterbacks and Davis Warren's not going to be able to move the ball.
Right.
I think if Ohio State is going to be able to win this game, they need to focus on stopping Samson and stopping this run game in general and make a true freshman beat you on the road at night in a hostile environment. So
Yeah.
I can see Ohio State bring in, 6, 7 guys in the box, especially early in this football game, to try to stop the running game. And once it does get into a third and long scenario where Nico's going to have to throw the ball, I don't expect them to sit back and just kind of let him go through his reads and pick
Right.
apart a zone defense. I expect Jim Knowles to actually dial up some pressure. I expect Sonny Styles, Cody Simon, and even Caleb Downs, on a safety blitz. I expect these guys to come from different angles because, like you said, the sack production recently hasn't really come from the defensive line. They've
Yep.
needed some of that extra help from the back seven.
Mhm.
And if they're going to win this football game, they're going to have to keep that up.
No, yeah, I'm right with you. And then, I mean, on the back end, they have Brew McCoy, Thornton, they're big 6'5" receivers. I think he's averaging over 25 a catch right now, which is
He's
insane.
their big play threat.
Yeah, he's the
right?
big play guy.
Yeah.
It's not like he's catching 6, 7 catches a game. He gets 3 there, 5 there, 2 here, whatever. Okay. It's very important that Igbenogson and Denzel they don't hold and they play very good. Now, I will say this as a former corner, it is actually easier to play bigger receivers than it is to face little guys or like smaller guys because they're shiftier. With the big guy, he may overpower you, but you can stay with him better because you can play off him a little bit. He's not as quick twitch, so that actually might play in their favor. I mean, it helps that Denzel's 6'1", Iggy's 6'1", 6'2", so I think that plays in our favor. But not giving Tennessee opportunities to move the chains outside of them doing it themselves. Dylan Sampson's gonna get some good carries.
Yep.
He's just a good running back. Their offensive line is good. I watched a few of their games this weekend, or a few of the highlights from the game, and they can move bodies. Thankfully for us, everyone on that D line is pretty damn big. Thankfully. Also, again, if there's other teams that aren't watching us, it's okay. But we have one of the things that helps Ohio State's run defense is the fact that we have 2 thumpers at safety. We have 2 safeties that love to hit. One of them is the best in the nation. The other one is top 3 in PFF, which is Ransom. So I think that plays in Ohio State's favor. But no, I mean, if you had to pick a score for this game, what would it be around? Or just a total score?
So I gave a very early prediction. Soon after this matchup was announced, and on SkylineGame.com, and I said early Ohio State 24, Tennessee 21. And again, that's without really diving into the film, really looking at what Tennessee's got. I saw this comment. I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, we saw the Georgia game. We saw the Oregon game. I mean, that's.
But this is 4 years. That's a.
Yeah, sure.
Pete, you're making me cry. Shut up.
But my early prediction was 24-21, and that's, again, without diving into a lot of the film on the Tennessee side. What your early prediction? What do you think?
I was actually thinking about this in the car ride home taking work. I'm somewhere around 24-17, 20-17.
And you're saying Ohio State?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think these defenses are really good. I think both of these offenses have glaring deficiencies. But in their own specific way. Ohio State, of course, being their O-line. Tennessee being, I don't want to call them they're not one-dimensional.
No.
But they are their pass game is very hit or miss. Yeah, it's very hit or miss. It's not. There's no happy in between you get from week to week or consecutive weeks. You're not going to get that out of them. So that I think that's where each team is going to struggle against the other, specifically against the other team's defense.
I think partly, first of all, I think the 7.5 line is outrageous. I think that's way too many points to give Ohio State, specifically for what we just saw against Michigan. I mean,
well, you said how many points?
It's 7.5. Ohio State's favored by 7.5.
Oh, hell no, not covering that. They're not covering that.
No chance. No chance that's a cover. I don't know what these odds makers are looking at, but I mean, as we both said, I think right now Ohio State is the better. Ohio State's the better team in terms of overall talent. I think we both agree on that. I think the issue comes to the coaching staff. And it comes to their ability to get these players to forget what happened in the last Saturday in November, because you can't do anything about that now. That game's gone forever. You can't get that back. You've got to you've got a game in front of you, and you got to focus on that and your one chance at redemption. Right. And I'm going to be really interested to see what the seniors do in this game, because the class of 2021, this is a legacy game for them, because they went 0-4 against Michigan. They haven't won a college football playoff game. They haven't won a Big Ten title. All of those things are black marks on this class. I mean, it's one of the worst senior classes in terms of records that we've seen in the last 20 years.
It's the first senior class I've ever seen not win anything.
Yeah. They're, quite frankly, losers. And this is a chance for them to show that they aren't losers. Right. This is their chance to go on the run and leave Ohio State with some sort of legacy, because right now their only legacy is, oh, I'm glad those guys are gone. Get the hell off campus, because they can't win any big games. So I really want to see. Yeah, sure. But I want to see what Jack Sawyer does, what Emeka Egbuka does. You know, Denzel Burke. Denzel Burke's he likes to talk a big game. Hasn't really shown up with that. I want to see what these guys do, because this is going to be their last chance. No matter what, this is their last time stepping foot in the shoe. So I want to see what the seniors do on the biggest stage when the lights are brightest.
They better show out, man.
Yeah, I can't promise that they will, but
actually, don't show out. Just don't show out. Just win the damn game, and then I'll think about Oregon. But
all right, so
win the damn game.
So before we wrap up this discussion on this early preview, I want to ask you what you think your best case scenario is for this game and how the worst case scenario plays out. So I want to hear what your best case scenario is for this game. If everything goes right, how does this game play out?
If everything goes right, Ohio State kicks their ass. If everything goes right, Ohio State kicks their ass. And I only say that because if Ohio State's offense is clicking, okay? Say if the pass game is rocking, there's maybe only one team I think that can beat us. That's Oregon. If the pass game is clicking. And of course, that would be a la what you saw in week 5 against them. I don't think if the best case scenario, I don't think Tennessee can pass on our defense. If we're scoring points, I don't think they can do that. I think if we were to score 4 touchdowns, we're comfortable. I think if we get to 28 points, we're comfortable. Worst case scenario, the offense keeps putting the defense on the field. And of course, they're going to get points throughout the game, but if they continuously do that, they are going to be put in the same situation they were 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But times that by 0.15, it's worse.
Yeah.
So
my best case scenario would be similar to what you said. Ohio State's I disagree with this also. I don't want to see black uniforms at Ohio State.
No.
Whoa! I don't. Whoa! Give me the all scarlets or the all grays way before I see
all whites.
Sure, but I mean, don't wear all whites at home.
You don't like the all blacks?
No, I don't. Black's not an Ohio State color. Get it out of here.
Black is whoa.
Yeah, no. Scarlet and gray here.
Behind you. Wait. there's like a blanket behind you or a jersey. Was that a blanket?
It's a blanket. Yeah, it's
Can you
got
please
black like lettering on the
wait?
outside to emphasize
There's
Ohio
black
State.
in there.
Okay, it's not a color. Don't give me that.
Oh, come on.
Regardless, the best case scenario for me is Ohio State actually decides that they're going to target Jeremiah Smith more than twice and a half. They're able to use
Shout out to John
Smith. Yeah, they're able to use Jeremiah as more of a not a decoy, but they use him and they use Emeka Egbuka both effectively. I think Ohio State's defense is still one of the best teams still one of the best units in the country. They shut them down, and Ohio State wins this game by 28 points. Worst case scenario, the team does not mentally recover from what happened against Michigan.
Right.
They come out soft. The offensive line, which will probably be revamped for this game, will be a disaster. Josh Padilla, who's probably going to end up starting at center for this game, will have his head spinning because this is his first start. He's not going to know how to call the protections. And the offense stumbles and scores again 10 points.
Right.
And they get blown out by 17 in their home building in front of their home crowd. And I think that, and obviously that would, in my opinion, lead to Ryan Day getting fired. But I did see this comment here as well.
Yeah. So all right, Kinetic. I think he's referring to, the players had an all-team meeting, and
Ryan Day was yes.
Yeah. No, that there's not a division in the on the team. What that is the players came together, led by the best player on the team. Is Caleb the best player on the team?
No, it's close between him or Jeremiah Smith.
Okay,
those are the two best.
The best defensive player, and probably I think Caleb probably is the leader of this team because he's probably the leader of this team.
He's played in the playoff before.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, well, these guys have to, but no, that's just guys trying to get on the same page. Because after a loss like that, you got to get everybody on the same page. So,
what that was to me was the players being extremely upset with the game plan. They were saying, hey, they know they're not stupid. Obviously, all the fans were crying about it, but they know it better than anybody. They know, hey, we've got these guys on the outside. We've got, again, I used this analogy last week. We've got these Ferraris here on the outside. Let's get in the car and let's punch it as hard as we can. And they didn't do that. And at first Ryan Day kind of pushed back, and then he sat there and took it, which he needed to take it because there's no excuse for that game plan. And I think he finally understood that because in his press conference, he mentioned, there's this week, there was no excuse for that game plan. We can't abandon what we do best, and we're going to do anything necessary against Tennessee to win the game. So I don't think there's any division at all. I think it was just, like you mentioned, guys being frustrated about the game plan and want to voice that frustration to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah. And then, see? Even the Michigan fans are sitting here saying the all black unis are dope, bro.
I don't like them at all. Okay.
The only division in Ohio State is me and Ryan right now.
I won't say I don't like them at all. Of the alternate uniforms, they're my second least favorite. The only other ones I hated more were the ones that Ohio State wore back in 2013 against Michigan. There was a while where Ohio State was
shiny
wearing
ones?
alternate uniforms against Michigan. Yeah, it was the helmets were looking weird and boxy.
Okay, wait. I want to ask you this. All right, all black unis are the shiny ones.
I would take if you're talking as the shiny ones as the ones that I was just describing, then I would take
Braxton Miller in them.
I would take the black ones over that.
Okay,
but give me the all scarlet ones all day. Those and the all grays.
Well, I want to pick the ugly ones and see which ones you like more than if you like the black ones more or not. The ones with Terrell, the ones that Terrell Pryor wore with the old style lettering, the scarlet helmet.
The scarlet helmet.
It was like the scarlet helmet
favorite, but at least it's an Ohio State color. So I would take that over the black uniforms. Now,
I gotta think of other teams that have multiple.
I wasn't a huge fan.
There.
I didn't really like the 2016 alternate uniforms either.
I
like those better than the black ones. The one or the double overtime game. I like those better than the black uniforms. But look,
What
I
about the
think it's
gray
just
stripe? What about the gray stripe one?
give me gray stripes. Gray stripes.
Oh God.
Gray needs to be more incorporated. They need to have the gray stripes on the sleeves again.
Uh,
Now,
if
I
they gave me
didn't
the
like.
2002 jerseys, I'd be happy.
Yeah, agreed. So after the, we've talked about this game. We've gone into a preview on that, but I do want to talk a little bit more about the transfer portal and how the guys we've seen leave, and talk about them a little bit. So since we last spoke, we've had multiple guys enter the portal, probably most notably Devin Brown, and I quite frankly I was surprised Devin Brown stayed this year, knowing he wasn't going to start this year and probably wasn't, going to start anytime in the future. But I definitely appreciate his mentality and his loyalty to Ohio State, because he loved it here, and he was a highly touted recruit. Like, he was a 5-star recruit in some services. So
on 3 him as the number 1 overall recruit.
Yeah. So for him to stick to Ohio State and kind of want to win something here, I wholeheartedly support and I appreciate. So I'll definitely wish him luck wherever he ends up. I don't really see him ending up as a starter at a P4 program. Maybe you could talk me into a place like Purdue, someone on the lower scale of that, one of the worst teams, just because he doesn't have a whole lot of film out there for schools to really look at and evaluate. So,
and the film he does have isn't that impressive.
Yeah, his best game was the Purdue game last year where he ran for 2 touchdowns. That's probably it. So he's probably the most notable guy. What do you think about him leaving?
Well, first I want to commend him the same way I did for Julian Fleming last year. You stay the course. He's about to graduate from Ohio State. You are a Buckeye. For all this purposes, you are a Buckeye. He could have left. I have to imagine that last year people were calling his phone, asking him, asking how much. I have to imagine that was happening. But for him, it's not so much him transferring, because I expected him to do so this year after the season. But for him to say I'm staying with my teammates, that I think is different than what we've seen from other people.
Yeah, I agree.
And because we've seen guys that are in the playoffs, on teams on the playoffs right now, that are transferring and not staying with the team. That's not the same case scenario. That's not Devin. He doesn't know if Ohio State's going to go win a national championship or not. He wants to stay on the team and be with his guys. So I really commend that.
What's interesting about that is, I 100% agree with everything you just said. What's interesting with the fact that he wants to stay through the college football playoff goes longer than the transfer portal is open. So the portal opens today, and I think it closes before the national championship game. So I think he would have to make a decision on that, before that would happen. And and winter term starts in January anyway, for a lot of schools. Yeah. So I'm not exactly sure what he would do in that scenario, but I do think it's very nice. It's very nice to see that he wants to stay and be a part of their run. And that also gives Ohio State some peace of mind, honestly, because they have nobody who's got experience behind Will Howard. Even Devin Brown's got limited experience, but at least he's a guy who's an upperclassman who has been the backup all year and been getting at least some reps in practice. So
if it came down to it, I would still want Julian. If Howard ever got hurt,
I tend to agree with you.
I would still prefer Stan coming before Brown.
I tend to agree with you, but I'm not sure the coaches do, just because they're, well, let me put it this way. If Will Howard goes down, they're done anyway. So that'd be a moot point. But he was
maybe.
I think they'd be done.
What would you do though? Let me ask you a question real quick. Just in a crazy universe somewhere else, how would you feel if Ohio State won a game in a fashion where Julian Sand came in and did what Dwayne Haskins did?
I say pull a Dwayne. Yeah, that'd certainly be great. But people forget that Dwayne only had to throw 2 passes in that game because JT came back in.
Bro, I knew at the 2 passes he was better than JT.
I don't know about that.
I stand by that. He was always better. Ryan, you might not know this about me. I hate JT Barrett. You
That
don't know that
sucks.
about me.
I don't know that about you, but you're not. I know you're not the only person in the fan base to think that.
Mhm.
I think JT's criminally underrated. I think he did a lot of good things for this program. And his freshman season, people forget he was gonna be a Heisman finalist until he broke his leg against Michigan. Like
He's a
he
trust
was
fund
that
kid,
good.
bro. He's a trust fund kid. Anybody could have
Oh
done
my.
well with that offense. Anybody.
No, he was good. That Penn State game still is one of the all-time great performances an Ohio State quarterback has ever
It is.
had.
It is.
So
How many passes did he hit? Like that second
he
half
hit
of
like
fourth quarter. He went
17 in a row. It was unreal.
Yeah.
But as far as what if Julian had to come in, and do something like that, I mean, I would love it. Don't get me wrong. Do I think that would happen? No, I do not.
Mhm.
But so Devin Brown wasn't the only person to. Good. You're finally admitting that he wasn't sure. You're right, Bert. So obviously Devin wasn't the only person to enter the portal.
Yep.
Had a couple other guys go. Most recently, they had Miles Walker, offensive lineman, enter into, and some of these guys that are leaving, I wouldn't say they are huge parts of the team, but you don't want to see offensive linemen and enter the portal when this team is already so banged up front and their depth is as bad as it is. And personally, and I'm going to hear your thoughts, I think this is an indictment on Justin Fry and his ability to recruit and develop kids because they have an issue with their depth. They're already having to reshuffle their offensive line again for this game against Tennessee. And they've got guys who, Walker was a 3-star recruit when he came in. No one really expected
He was
him
never gonna play, bro.
too much. No, he was never going to play, but that's my problem. Justin Fry is recruiting guys who are never going to play. You got to get some higher rated kids in here on the offensive line.
Well, I don't even think you need a higher rated guy. Like, all right, I would be perfectly fine if Justin Fry went after 6 or 5 or 4 Ohio 3-star kids, held 2 stars, and brought them in. Let me tell you why. This isn't quarterback. This isn't wide receiver. This isn't corner. This is offensive line is not an easy position to play. It is not. But it is a position that if you can get these guys and coach them well, they can be as good as anybody else, or at least damn near. And the
problem is
I personally
he can't coach well.
maybe he can't. Well, maybe he can't. But the truth of the matter is, bro, we've seen two of his linemen who were his best offensive linemen at center and left tackle go out. And I'm not an apology for it. I hate him. I can't stand him. But I have to give him credit for in the times right after Ohio State had these injuries, he got it together.
I'll agree with you on that.
We have to give him that credit. And so the depth that is on him. That is on him, and not bringing in more guys. I would actually also want to know how many, because you have a limit to how many guys you can bring in. I want to know what numbers they tell him and how many he can bring in.
At this point, with the class misses that they've had and with as few numbers as they've brought in, that number can't be high enough. I mean, there's got to be a time
it's not.
Bring in 6 guys. Like, I don't care. I mean, you hear reports now the Buckeyes are going to have to go into the portal, and they're looking at 4 or 5 guys in the portal of the offensive line. Oh, sure. My point is you shouldn't have to do that. You should be able to develop and recruit highly rated Ohio State kids. I don't mind going in there, getting 1 or 2 guys to come in to help shore up depth if you have a couple misses, or there's a really good tackle who all of a sudden enters in the portal you weren't expecting. He was a starter level guy. Yeah, let's obviously go after him. But there's under no circumstances should a program with as many resources as Ohio State has, should they need to go and try to replace 4 or 5 offensive linemen in the transfer portal. That's insane.
Well, I don't think you're replacing them. I think you're understanding what you have, and also remember
that's my point.
The offensive depth chart is very young. The offensive line depth chart is pretty young. There's a lot of sophomores, a lot of redshirt and freshmen. So there's also that, but it's no different from whenever else do. I don't think Ohio State would bring in 4 or 5 linemen. I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to try and bring in 2 or 3. but it's no different from what everyone else is doing around the nation with their other positions. People do this at other positions. They bring in 2 or 3 guys. So I don't. Yeah, it doesn't feel good to be Ohio State and have to look at offensive linemen. I get that we believe we should be good at every single position. That's just not the truth. That's just not what it is. And what it is right now is that Ohio State has an offensive line problem. We have a Justin Fry problem, even though I do give him credit for this year. But yeah, actually, yeah, it's a Justin Fry problem. Because to be honest, here in my lifetime, I've never seen Ohio State really struggle with offensive lines. Even what all the offensive linemen from 2021 were really good. But we were starting 4 tackles, which is stupid to me. You never start 4 tackles.
Sure.
But yeah, it's not a fun scenario, but I think it just is what it is. And if you can go out there and get 2 or 3 really good offensive linemen, I'm all for it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. As far as 2 or 3 offensive linemen, it just once the reports go to 4 or 5 offensive linemen, you're whoa, what? Why do you need that many guys? Like you missed on that many guys.
Maybe you, dude. Maybe you. Hey, well, we're gonna talk about other guys that went to the portal and at a Heartline's position group.
Okay, you know what? Let's go ahead and let's talk about those guys now. So Ohio State did have a couple wide receivers enter the portal. They had Kojo Antwi enter the portal, and they had Jaden Ballard end up in the portal as well. So those are guys who, we mentioned this last week. Those are guys who were never really going to see the field.
Oh, you can't say that about Ballard. You can't.
Ballard early this season. Last year, he didn't get a whole lot of snaps.
No, but I'm saying coming into Ohio State, it was not a thought process that he was going to get on playing time.
No. But after that, and we talked about this. Heartline's position group is one where he's bringing in 4 or 5-star kids every single class. You know the level of competition you're going to have. Not forget the competition for the wide receivers who are already on the roster in front of you, but you're looking at the other freshmen coming in that class knowing, hey, that guy's rated as the top guy in his state. That guy's top in his state. I'm top in my state. We're going to have a hell of a fight to see who gets on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So when Kojo and Jaden decide, they end up entering the transfer portal because they weren't able to crack the rotation, that's a little bit different than someone, like Miles Walker, who's a 3-star kid who was brought in at a position group that doesn't consistently bring in 4 or 5-star kids. Justin Fry has not had a single 5-star recruit brought in since he's been the offensive line coach. That's the difference. Brian Hartline has the track record.
Less than 10% of the recruiting classes are 5-stars. Like, do you give him credit for bringing in I don't know why the kid.
He's the highest rated recruit that they've got. Him and Luke Montgomery.
They're both top 10 offensive linemen in their class. Like, yes, they're not 5-stars, but it's not like they're like number 30 in their position. These guys are top 10 kids in their class.
Okay, sure, but then you look at who he replaced, who Fry came in to replace. Coach Stud, Greg Sadrawa. Stud's, he brought in 5-star guys. He brought Paris Johnson Jr., 5-star recruit, was the top rated tackle in his class. Got him in. He also was able to bring in other highly regarded 4-star recruits and another 5-star recruit.
Which Fry is doing that. He's
not bringing in 5-star kids.
No, but you said highly thought of 4 stars. He's doing that.
Okay,
he's doing that. Like we
Carter Lowe and Luke Montgomery are the only 2 high 4-star recruits he's brought in. Everybody else has been a 3-star or a low borderline 4-star.
I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with that.
I'm not okay with that because he clearly can't coach them up and develop them into what would be a 5-star talent. That's my thing. If you can't recruit, you've got to be able to coach and develop these kids. That's what Michigan has done the last few years. They have actually they don't get the highly rated recruiting classes like Ohio State does, but their coaching staff under Harbaugh was actually able to develop the kids, so they played like 5-star recruits.
They're getting some highly rated for. They get some pretty good. Yeah, El Hadi was a 5-star on some sites.
Well, look,
Even
if
though
you
he didn't
can,
play
if
like it, but
bringing in 3 and 4 star recruits is fine with me as long as you
Mhm.
coach them up and develop them into good players.
Do you think
Fry
Justin Fry
isn't
coached
doing that.
well
He's
this
not
year?
doing either.
Do you think he coached well this year?
Not particularly well. You asked me to give me Justin Fry's grade last week. I gave him a B.
That's good. A B is good.
A B
Wait,
is
wait,
a B is the best
wait.
grade he's had, and that's only and he
Yeah.
only gets that because of
And
the
what and
injuries
this
to
is,
McLaughlin and Simmons, and they had to do something on the fly.
but what? And this is what year 3?
This is
What
his
is it?
third year.
30 years, year 3. Like,
How? Okay, let me ask you this. He's been here for 3 years now.
mm-hmm.
Of the players that he's recruited, so this is going to be his first class that he, these kids that who are leaving here
Yeah.
after this season. This is going to be the first class of kids that he has brought in on the offensive line that are draft eligible. Can you name me one
Wait,
person?
wait. He came in 21.
Yeah, it was 2022 was like his first year. He
So
was
he has
able
one
to
more.
bring
He
in
has one
like
more. He
a
has one more
few
year. He
recruits.
has one more year then.
Well, he brought in like 1 or 2 recruits at the end of that class. But regardless,
Mhm.
can you name me one person who he's recruited that will be even a day 2 pick who he didn't bring in from the transfer portal? I rest my case.
No. Look, again, I don't want to see like I'm the Justin Fry guy trying to hold the flag for him. I don't like him, but I'm not gonna hang on, like, because here's my thing. You say if you're not gonna be able to coach them, then get the 5-star guys, the really talented guys. Well, here's the other downside of that. If you get those kids and then they see that you can't develop them, that word's gonna get around and you're not gonna get them anyways. So
That's my point. You need to get someone else who can.
well, he
Do
should be
one or
fired.
both.
We all think he should be fired.
Yeah.
But he's not fired. So
I want to talk about, here to wrap up the show. I want to talk
Mhm.
about some other guys who we might see enter the portal here now that it's officially open today.
Oh, I'm sorry, real quick.
Yeah.
All those receivers leaving is not gonna hurt. It's never gonna hurt us.
Correct.
Kojo and
Agreed.
leaving,
Agreed. Could not agree with you more. Brian Hartline brings in guys every year. They've got
Mhm.
replacements. That's the one position they can afford to lose guys at.
He can go out there and play if he wanted to.
Exactly. But as far as other guys we could see entering the portal,
Mhm.
I think Lincoln Kienholz is a big candidate to enter the portal. Another guy at quarterback who I don't see really having a future with the team.
Yeah.
Especially with Tavian St. Clair coming in, and now they've got Aaron Nolan and Julian Sayin in. But if he does transfer, that does put Ohio State in a little bit of a pickle. They would probably have to go in the portal and get someone just for depth purposes. Just have 4 guys, 4 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I'm not saying that guy would ever really play a whole lot unless you get someone who has some experience, maybe at the G6 level, something like that.
Mhm.
Kind of what they did last year, getting a kid from Oregon State in, Tristan Gibbia. He was never going to play, but he had played before, so in an emergency he could come in. I
That
think
season would have gone to shit if he ever played.
exactly. I could see Ohio State maybe losing, maybe one more receiver. The receiver room's pretty full right now.
If you had to
And
pick one, who would it be? You had to pick one more.
Yeah, so they've got 4 guys coming in with this class. They're all, 4 3-star kids. No 5 stars this time, but they're really only losing Emeka Buka as far as guys that are going to the draft. So it's not like a bunch of playing time is going to be open for these guys that are on the roster. Obviously, no one's going to jump Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate on the depth chart. So,
I don't think about jumping Brandon Ennis either.
I don't think so either. I think Ennis is probably going to be the 3rd guy. So if you're looking at other guys who are lower there on the depth chart, and honestly, I could see Mylan Graham getting some playing time next year too. He was a 5-star kid last year.
He's going to play a lot next year.
He's good.
Yeah.
But, you're looking at someone like, I don't know, Kojo's obviously already gone, but I could see someone like, I mean, some of these guys like Sean Lodge. I mean, he's like a walk on. I mean, maybe he leaves. Bryson Rogers was in the portal last year, decided to come back. He's
Yeah,
done
I'm
more on
surprised.
special teams.
I'm surprised I'm surprised he hasn't entered yet.
I was surprised he came back from the portal last year because you don't see a whole lot of people enter the portal and then decide you're coming back. So
Yeah.
that surprised me too. I think Rogers is probably the number one candidate for me as far as wide receivers to leave. But he's a guy they use on special teams, so maybe not. What do you think? Who do you think guys could possibly leave to the portal?
Well, Lincoln's one of them. I actually think Lincoln would do well as like a wide receiver type of guy. I really do. He's a really good athlete. He's a really good athlete.
I don't think he's that good of an athlete to do something like that.
If you can dunk in your Vans, you are a good athlete. If you can bet 500 in high school, you are a good athlete. So
there's a difference between doing that and being able to be a wide receiver in college.
No, I agree, but I agree, but I'm talking about like my measure for a really good athlete is someone who can really excel at a lot of different things in sports. And if you were telling me that, because I have to, like, if I'm picturing this, he's about what, 6'2", 6'1". If you're doing a windmill dunk in your Vans, you have
actually 6'3".
6'3". Okay, so he has close to a 40-inch vert about. So like he's a good athlete. That's all I think. That's all I think about him. But I'm not saying he could be wide receiver. I just think he could possibly play in that role. I don't think he is a P4 quarterback. I just don't. I think he's a kid that is really athletic, really athletic. So him, I'm just surprised he hasn't entered yet. I think you said Air already.
I did not mention Air, but I do think it's possible. Whichever between Julian and Air, and St. Clair, between Air and Julian, if neither one of them wins the starting job coming into the spring, I could see them leaving, but I don't think Air's going to leave yet.
And then I'm trying to think of some
defensively. Defensively, I've got a couple candidates for if you want to hear them.
I'm going to start with CJ Hicks.
That he was going to be one of them. If they don't put him on the edge like he wants to be, I could see him heading out because you mentioned this last week. Arvell Reese is probably sliding up into that second starting linebacker spot. And I mean, Hicks would be a senior next year. He wants somewhere where he's going to play pretty much every snap. So I could definitely see that happening.
Especially and what's hard for him is that you have Jackson Jr. and we have freaking Curry. So
yeah. I mean, and getting on the edge is going to be it's going to be a little tough. And plus, I mean, he would also have to put on more weight, which I mean, in Coach Vick's program, that's not hard. But if he doesn't transfer,
how much is he, like 220 something?
Yeah. So right now he's listed at 233.
If he's 233, he's okay. If you're 233 on the edge, you'll be okay.
He'd probably need to put on. I still probably think maybe 10 pounds. I'd like him more close to the 245 mark if he's going to be on the defensive line. But if he stays, but if he stays, I think that's telling. Because I think that tells you they've had conversations about his usage and he will be put more on the edge as opposed to in that linebacker spot.
If he comes back, I think Curry or Jackson leave.
So you think Caden Curry or Kenyatta? So I think Kenyatta's actually going to be. I think Kenyatta might be one of the starters on the edge next year, and Caden Curry will be a starter next year. He's already played super well special teams. He's in the rotation right now on the defensive line. I think he stays. I actually think someone in the secondary who could leave is Calvin Simpson-Hunt, just because he's already a sophomore. He hasn't really seen the field a whole lot, and the defensive back room, you're going to lose Burke, you're going to lose Hancock. Igbinosun will likely stay. At least that's just my first blush at it.
And so Jermaine is starting next year without
Jermaine Matthews. He's going to be a starter, and they really like Aaron Scott. Well, they're not going to lose him, but they really like.
I think if they don't guarantee Jermaine Matthews is starting next year, he will leave. he will leave.
Well, he's going to be a starter. I think
No,
he'll start.
I'm saying, yeah, I'm saying if he wasn't,
Yeah.
but yes, he's going to be.
But again, they like Aaron Scott. They like Bryce West. Both were a freshman. Scott was a little banged up this year, and they're bringing in Devin Sanchez, who's the number one corner in the country, who I personally think is good enough to start day one.
Yeah, he's going to get a lot of tickets freshman year.
Yeah, he's someone I could see leaving, and I could also see Jaden Bonsu transferring. He was a kid who, we flipped from Miami.
I would hate that.
He flipped from Miami coming in. I could see him going back down there just because, again, someone who hasn't gotten a whole lot of playing time. Obviously, he's not taking Caleb Down's spot, and they like Malik Hartford there as the other safety once Lathan is gone after this year. So I could see Bonsu being another guy that would leave. But Ryan Day mentioned in his presser, they expect to lose 15% of the roster. So there's going to be more guys we're not even mentioning who end up getting out of here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, is there anything else you want to cover before we get out here?
Yeah, just this real quick. Herbstreit's son. So, because I see a lot of Michigan fans are having fun with it, and I get it, guys. I really do. I truly do. I was amazed when I went to Chase Herbstreit's 247. And then I checked on 3 just to confirm it because I saw this. I need to confirm it. Oh, wait. He had no offers.
He's not good.
And then I said, okay, well, I see Michigan did it. But then I saw like a little, like not an asterisk, but something funky on the 247. So I said, man, I gotta look this up. I type in Chase Herbstreit walk-on. And so I just think it's funny that they think that we really care about, listen, the quarterback position at Ohio State next to wide receiver is sacred. I don't care. At least as of recent, the quarterback position is sacred. He would never play.
No.
He would never
play.
He wouldn't be scout team.
Yeah. And look, I understand, like, from a Buckeye legacy standpoint, like, your dad was an alumni. A lot of people are saying, how do you let your kid go to Michigan?
Can you tell me what he accomplished at Ohio State, please?
I mean, he started. He was a team captain at Ohio State.
But what did he accomplish?
I'm not going to sit here and say he was great.
What did he accomplish?
And look, he's got a kid at Ohio State. Unfortunately, he hasn't been able. Like he had to medically retire because he had some issues there. He's got a kid at Clemson, and so it's not like all of his kids were at Ohio State to begin with. And Ohio State clearly wasn't the point. And this is probably what's going to happen all across the country starting this recruiting cycle. Preferred walk-ons are going to be extinct. Walk-ons in general are an endangered species because of the new roster limits with NIL coming in. And there's just not going to be a whole lot of walk-ons, especially on these big time programs anymore. There's just not. So Ohio State didn't want to use a roster spot on someone like that. They wanted to keep that open for some scholarship quarterback who's actually got a chance to play. I don't blame them for that. And if they are going to, they're going to keep the walk-ons that they have already, on the team for that. So
I'm sorry. And why? I'm sorry. Continue. Finish.
No, that's pretty much all I had on that.
A Jew. This is where I laugh at you, Michigan fans. You guys don't know anything about your team. Sherrod Moore got to Michigan in 2018. So what does that mean? What does that mean about 2019? Think that through. Come back. Message me on Twitter. I'll be there for you. But think that through for me, and then come back with a real response. Yeah.
Okay. He knows he's wrong. I just put a comment up in there. But yeah, I mean, the Herbstreit thing, that doesn't make sense. And I also get the sentiment, like, why did he, of all places, choose Michigan? Couldn't go literally anywhere else. My guess is, I mean, my guess is, yeah. I mean, they just,
it's a really good
again,
school.
It's not something that bothers me that much. Good luck to the kid, whatever. I've got some people who are pretty locked into high school football who said he probably shouldn't have even been starting at St. X anyway. But that's
St. X is a really good program. If anybody doesn't know,
yes.
It's a really good program in Ohio for all you people that aren't in Ohio. Yeah.
So, yeah,
Preferred
that's all I
walk-on.
got for you. If you've got nothing
Yeah, man.
else,
I'm all good.
call-in show Thursday at 8. So bring your comments. We'll be talking about whatever you guys want to talk about for that show. I'm sure there'll be a lot of previewing the Tennessee game. I'll dive into the film a little bit more before then as well. So get a little bit more X's and O's for that matchup in there as well. But till then, I'll see you on Thursday, Garrison. So OH.
IO. Elite Scout.